I really want people to know that, like, whatever you want to do, the biggest limiting factor is always going to be you.
And it was maybe it was like 4:52 p.m. Maybe on the last carb load day, it was a front relaxed was the photo, and I knew we were first call out and had a shot at it. That's when I knew. But if you pinch an area, like I can pinch most of my body and feel granules of fat. Well, I've been more aggressive with filling out in the last year or two than I used to be, and my reasoning is always.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to 1D Talks here. We have the championship version special episode here with the Chicago Pro Women's Physique champion, Dani LaMartina. Thanks for joining us, Dani.
What's up? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Also Dani is one of the partners in Team Troponin with her husband David and Mr. Justin Harris, and longtime contributor at the Elite FTS, as well as many other strength publications and content and all that fun stuff. So
you forgot to mention the dad jokes. I feel like that's my greatest gift to the world.
Greatest gifts is the dad jokes.
Heck yeah.
Well, now you gotta tell us one. So what's the dad joke you got?
All right. So what did Yoda say when he saw himself in 4K?
I don't know.
But you're welcome.
Nice. So talk to us about this. What was the prep like? Well, we'll hear it from you, then hear it from Mr. Harris.
It was pretty easy.
Or vice versa.
Pretty easy, sure.
Nice, smooth, slow. It was long, right? It was a long prep.
It was super long. So we had planned on doing Puerto Rico Pro, and we started a little early for that because I was traveling a little bit. So it was originally going to be an 18-week prep for Puerto Rico Pro. Puerto Rico Pro was canceled, and we decided to do Chicago instead. So it became a 22-week prep, which I don't know that I really want to do again. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, Justin, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you feel like things went, and if they went as expected? Because obviously I have, my blinders on. But yeah.
So you were 9 pounds heavier than last year?
Yeah.
Is that what it ended up being? Do we, Joe, if you go on my Instagram or her Instagram, you can see a comparison
Yeah,
photo.
I got one right here.
I thought it was a really interesting prep because the whole time I was feeling super confident. And you, I don't think you were. And so it was like really interesting to me because that happens from time to time. And I still always have a little moment of like when a client's worried, I'm like, God, like, am I losing it? Am I not seeing the correct thing? I mean, I know I am because my brain's logical because I'm not starving, and your brain isn't because you are starving. But that always stresses me out. But it's always interesting because I was super confident for probably the last maybe 6 weeks, and it was around that time when you first were worried about the prep, and so that was interesting because I was like, man. Again, am I seeing something wrong here? But I was confident the whole time. I mean, I wasn't, you never know if you're going to get a win or anything, but I was feeling really good about first call out. And then I think I even showed you the exact photo. You sent it. It was me.
That's crazy. Cause for most of prep, I feel like I was in a pretty good headspace. Like I think much more than previous years. But yeah, right around 6 weeks out, I really started to wonder if I should go. And there were a couple of people that are close to me, kind of in my inner circle, my A team, that I told I didn't think I should get on stage. Like I don't think I should go. I emailed Chris Edmonds, who'd been helping me with my programming because I needed to hand that off to someone, and was like, Chris, I don't think I should go. And he was like, well, I think you need to talk to Justin, but I think you're gonna be okay. It's always wild as a competitor too, because at least for me, like I very much undersell what I think I'm going to be able to do, and especially after last year where I really had high hopes. I didn't want to get hopes up this year, and so it's always hard, I think, as a competitor because you don't want to need that reassurance from your coach. But I really think in those last 6 weeks, when you were feeling really confident, I had no idea you were feeling really good because I was sitting there like, You can't see my glute striations. Like my side shots, my glutes aren't in. My back shots, my hamstrings are kind of there.
Well, because you were hyper flat. That's
Yeah.
so, well, because I mean, if you think about if you think of a balloon, you know, you take a balloon and you deflate it, and you can't see through the balloon. It's solid. It's opaque. You know, it's but you blow a balloon up and the skin stretches. And you can start seeing through it. And that's, I mean, I knew that's what was going to happen. The only real, and Joe, I just sent you a screenshot of that was the moment I knew we were potentially winning. It was, looks like I lost it. I think it was 4:52 p.m. 2 days out. And that was when you finally turned the corner and you were getting full. And because your abs are always flat until you're full, then they seem to be like the last thing to hold some glycogen and fill out. And so when they started standing out, and we still had like 2 or 3 more meals that day to fill out with, and we hadn't even begun drying out. And so that's when I knew. But even because I was trying to think of ways to explain with your glutes. One way, if you pinch an area and there's granules, I mean, if any of us that have body fat right now, Joe, why is your screen so blurry? Oh, there it is. Yeah, that was when I knew your legs still needed to fill out, but your delts were round. Your delts were super flat, like a week or 2 out. But then your abs come in, and then maybe it was like 4:52 p.m. Maybe on the last carb load day, it was the front relaxed was the photo, and your abs finally came in because you started to fill it out. And that's when I knew this is, I mean, absolutely going to be your best look, but that's when I knew we were first call out and had a shot at it. That's when I knew. But if you pinch an area, like I can pinch most of my body and feel granules of fat, you know, you could feel the fat chunks. With your glutes, I would have guaranteed, I didn't even think to say it.
This episode is brought to you by First Detachment. We are battle tested. Are you? Find your battle today at firstdetachment.com.
But if you would pinch it, it would just be thick skin. You wouldn't feel the chunks of fat.
That's funny because that's the chest type is like running on myself constantly. I think it's fun when you've worked with a coach for long enough because you kind of think you know what they might say and you've heard a lot of it, but you forget it. And especially in that moment, I think as a competitor, it's really, really easy to kind of forget all those things. And I feel like I have enough of an understanding of physiology to be able to kind of know what's going on most of the time. But I think it's really worth mentioning to people who are maybe thinking of competing or in the throes of it right now, or, you know, a couple weeks out and are kind of wondering if they're going to be ready. Like, just continue to trust your coach. I feel so lucky that I get to work with a coach who's, I mean, I feel like most of the younger coaches right now, Justin, are kind of standing on your shoulders. So all these younger guys that are trying to do and using carb cycling and, you know, talking about it like it's this new like mystique. Man, y'all are standing on my coach's shoulders. And so it's really cool for me as a competitor to be able to show up to these shows where you see these coaches who are kind of the up and coming coaches and their athletes look really good, but like there's just something missing. It's a great feeling as a competitor to like, my coach is literally like the OG. So it's cool.
I think too, just to mention, you know, obviously you training with your husband, like David, and you know, I know you guys pump out a lot of stuff on Team Troponin about your training as well. And then with Justin coaching, I mean, you put on 9 pounds like stage weight. Cause what's your total body weight?
I think last year on stage, I was like 121 or just under 121. Oh. I was little.
So what is like 8%, 7%? I don't know. I didn't really do the math.
And I think when I got up, well, I slept like 30 minutes the night before the show. So when I woke up, Friday morning, I think I was like 129, 128.5 or something like that. So I'm still small for the division. And I still need to, thicken up a little bit. But I think the coolest thing for me is like, we train in a gym where a lot of people want to talk a lot about the science and kind of joke about how to bring up the protractors, like perfect angles of training and this, that, and the other. I think between Dave and Justin and myself, we're all kind of on the same line that like that stuff matters, kind of, but the hard work matters more. And so it's really validating for me as a PT. I feel like that back double, especially if you look at like the symmetry between my left and my right.
That's your left lat last year versus this year. That's the thing that stands out the most to me because they're very symmetrical this year.
And that was 100% me being a giant nerd looking at the ribcage on the front side. Especially in the last couple of weeks, kind of leading into the show. And so I think for me, like the coolest thing about this is that change from last year to this year is very much a byproduct of me trying to put my professional expertise into my own body. And it was just a really kind of cool moment for me to celebrate. Like, man, like you come a really long way because of your ability to trust your knowledge, implement, execute, but not overthink and just work really hard. So,
Yeah, I can see the lat difference you're talking about, right? Is that what you're talking about kind of through here?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 a bit of size, but a lot of it was just rib cage position on the front left side changed so much about how that whole left side sat. And you can even see too in my hips that it's a lot easier for me to shift on my right leg, just kind of my stance leg, because I'm not already so far lateralized that direction. I don't want to get too nerdy, but it was cool, I think, for me to just look at some of these shots and be like, man, all of like their neuro stuff that I talk about, that people probably roll their eyes at, that's what led to that big change. And that was, I thought that was kind of cool.
I love that it was the rib cage. anyone who listens to the troponin episodes will know, will hear the rib cage brought up pretty frequently. It's the carb cycling of the body.
I feel like Dave and Justin probably sit there and they go, "Oh God, here she goes again. We're gonna talk about the R word." But
well, I think one of the keys though is you also you had a unique style to posing, your posing coach. So we're gonna let out some trade secrets here. So it looks like, you got different, just kind of like the Rocky Balboa, like when he's chasing the chickens,
really the
like
chicken.
It's a good crab, most muscular.
Just hanging out with your husband, just having a good night out. Just got to break out the pose, right?
Right. This is, I think, what set me up for the best presentation on stage.
On the beach, trying to enjoy some time. Let's see what else we got. I think there's a couple more.
It's funny because I think on the troponin episodes, we come off as super serious, but like when I'm not on camera, this is kind of what you're getting.
There you go. There you go.
I think it's important for people to remember that kind of fun too. I mean, have conviction.
Quad stomp.
Quad stomp there, yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're gonna cool, you got a quad stomp.
There you go. All right,
yeah,
I think that's it.
The summer we did.
Good.
So
good
what's planned next? What's up next?
Well, Team Troponin is going to the Olympia, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
after doing this, right?
Yeah, I think I'm probably just going to go and cool on the Olympia stage and hope not to get last.
Yeah, I think you're still holding about 2 pounds of muscle that we weren't able to present on stage.
I felt like my glutes and my quads were still a little bit flat. But I'm glad that we didn't spill. And I think that, the feedback that I got from the judges was just that I need, bigger quads and a wider back because I need to make my waist look smaller. And I think that's something I probably mentioned to you in pony check-ins. So got my waist size, and we're like, just do the thing, you're fine. But Justin, what's it like for you on peak week? At a show like this, where it's like you obviously hope your client does great, but you never really know how it's going to go.
I hate peak weeks. I mean, I don't. I feel like this last maybe year or so, 20 years into it, I feel like, it's not like nothing's really been a mystery in the sport or like peaking someone or dieting someone for a long time. I don't even remember a time where I had to use any formulas or anything for setting up a diet. I've just done it literally the majority of my life. But I feel like this last year, it's just felt like breathing to me. Like when a client sends their peak week check-ins, where before I might have to kind of analyze or look back over other pictures, it's almost like right away. It just seems like I feel like I'm really in what's the word, like where you're at your peak. I feel like I'm really hitting my 20 years in. I'm like, I don't. Maybe I'll get better. I would imagine age is going to catch up to me at some point. I mean, I'm not old, but just you do something long enough. But I just feel like everything just absolutely made sense. But that your show week was brutal for me because I had a competitor competing Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I had client one, Mr. Puerto Rico. I don't remember what day that was. 2 days after you. So, but I had, and so if anyone knows what I do for the peaks, usually around 2 days out, especially for a pro show, I have them checking in every meal. So I had 6 competitors over 5 days, which ended up really being 7 days because the 2 days before that. So for 7 consecutive days, I had someone checking in every single meal, which means like, and I was flying to Texas. I went down for a podcast. And so like, people eat every 2.5 hours. So I couldn't be ever away from my phone for a week for even a couple hours. I couldn't watch a movie. I couldn't, and then like the night before shows, sometimes I set it, like if things aren't going well with a client, I'll have them check in at like 1 a.m. or something. This was a great week. I had no issues, but I still set my 1 a.m. alarm just in case there's a panic, because every once in a while someone sent a panic text. So and then I usually do either like 4 or 5 a.m. for the same reason. This time I did for you guys. I think I said I was going to do 4:15, and one person did have a text at that time. But so for 5 of those 7 days, that was twice a night I was waking up to check my phone also. And so that was a long week, but it was a really good week. We had Mr. Puerto Rico, my state competitor, took second as a natural in an untested division, and beating 2 of the guys. He took 4th 2 weeks before, and he beat 2 of the guys this time. And then Mr. Puerto Rico, and then a pro win. So it was a really good week.
So when I think about like peaking too, this is maybe selfishly I'm curious. So after prejudging on Friday, I'm not gonna lie, backstage, all these women were, I don't know if the lighting on the stage lighting was off, because it looked like a lot of girls weren't conditioned, especially on like the front double. You didn't see a lot of separation, and like online too, it looks like a half separation.
Are you talking about the photos were not? I don't think whoever was taking the official photos had their camera setting correct, because you can see on your rear double bi even, or any of the photos, they're a little blurry. They're not focused properly. I don't know what was up with that.
Those are just from NBC News Online too. Those weren't the official stage shots.
Okay, yeah. I guess I'm saying all the ones that I've seen online. I guess they're probably all from NBC News Online.
Well, I remember being backstage and looking at all these women, and like, seriously, they were all in great shape. Like, there was not a single woman in first call-outs, and there were a couple in second. That, God, how did they not make the first call-outs? Being backstage, I was like, F it. If I'm going to have any shot at doing all of this, I'm going to have to be full and big and posed big on stage. So you had me fill out on chips and, like, I think it was like 2 pickles. And at the last minute before getting on stage, as I was pumping up, I was like, my delts are full. So I slammed a Rice Krispie treat in half. And just did a whole bunch of lateral raises, root out stuff. And before I got on stage, that was like when things finally filled out. But when I got off, I was so close to spilling that, and so we just talked a minute ago about how it was like there was still that little bit of that, maybe 2 to 3 pounds in the quads and glutes especially. And I think even in my upper back a little bit, that we probably could have filled out more. How do you toe the line on not spilling and at the same time really making sure that you're full, especially in that pump up kind of phase?
Well, I've been more aggressive with filling out in the last year or 2 than I used to be. And my reasoning has always been conditioning wins shows, and you can think, Ronnie Coleman, the 98 Olympia or the 2001 Arnold, he was flat really for him at both of those shows.
Yeah.
But like the 2001 Olympia people, or not the 2001 Olympia, the 2001 Arnold, people talk like it's the best look ever, but he was 246 pounds or something, which for him is tiny.
Yeah, that's small.
But he's bone dry. And the big one that stood out for me was Chris Cook, if anyone remembers, won the US Super Heavies in the USA's 3 years in a row. And back then, only 2 people turned pro. And so the first 2 years, he won the Super Heavies and didn't get the nod for a pro card. And the 3rd year, he worked with Chad Nichols. And Chad, who usually has people pretty full, brought him in super dry but flat, like almost 15 pounds flat even. Wow. And he finally turned pro because he was finally really dry. And so that like really struck with me. And so my general thought is everyone likes to be full. Being full feels good. Everyone's more confident when they're full. That's because when you
feel big, you feel like you can get out there, you can present.
Yeah. And actually I meant to do an article about this and like the difference between why a coach does have value. Because when I'm looking to, if you look full, you're like, clients will say, I feel full. I feel full, coach, I feel flat, where the judges don't feel, they see. And so when you look relatively full, that's usually when I stop trying to push it, because I know that's enough. You might not feel full, and maybe we could be fuller, but the risk to reward starts really shifting in the wrong direction, where, if we add an extra pound of fullness, that would be great if we can still dry out. But what if we add an extra pound of fullness and we don't dry out? Then there's you're not winning.
Right.
I'm really curious how things are going to go with the Olympia. They have us, I looked at the schedule and I was talking to, it's so cool. I get to talk to these people in a week. I was talking to Sean Carita, and he's mentioned how they have us as athletes at meetings at the Meet the Olympians meetings until like 8 o'clock Thursday night, and we're on stage Friday morning. So you're supposed to be drying out, but they also have you on your feet and talking to people and trying to be good ambassadors for the sport, good representatives, and I'm really curious how that's gonna go.
During between prejudging and the finals, when you had the like chips, pickles, etc., did you have any fluid at that time, or was it just the extra sodium and everything?
And the pickles have a little bit of water content in them anyway. I just knew that for me on stage, I always feel really good if I don't have a lot of stuff just sitting in my stomach. And waist control for me has been a big deal. I think because of all the years spent powerlifting, same pattern that drove that ribcage position that we saw with the lat exposure. That small correction helped my lat, but I need to take that correction and amp it up a lot so that my waist can look smaller and I can get better TA control. I didn't have any fluid again until I had, I think, 1.5 ounces of wine back at the VRBO because I hadn't slept. I really wanted to be able to take a nap. And then before finals, I think I had 1 meal and maybe 5 ounces of fluid. So between Thursday to Friday I'm one who usually drinks like 2 gallons of water a day, just only. That's just me. And then on Thursday, I had a little bit less than a liter as a whole. And then really nothing Friday until after finals, or not much anyway.
We kept water at 8 liters on the second carb up day, right? Or did I drop it to 7?
We dropped it to 7.
Yeah, I almost went to 6 this time actually. So, but you said like, how do I know? Like, I'm looking back over our texts because we were still adding extra carbs a day out.
Yeah.
Per meal. We did I think we did 25 grams with meal 2, 35 grams with meal 3. And then I did another 25 grams with meal 4. And so how do I know like when to stop? In that case, it was meal 4 and we were halfway through the day and we still had to dry out. So there was just no more time really.
Yeah. That's what we ran into last year too, was it seems like it takes me a longer time to fill out. And I knew that I had more size this year and I knew I was coming to keep it flatter. So I texted Justin it must have been Sunday or Monday after he saw my peak plan. And I was like, I will do whatever this man tells me to do. Like, I take his word as gold. He's one of the few people in this world who's always had nothing but my best interest at heart, which is really cool to be able to say about a coach. Like, there are not many coaches out there like that. But I remember texting you because I was concerned that we weren't going to be able to fill out in time to start the dry out process in time, because that was what we've run into Chicago last year and Tampa too. And I think at Tampa, we even took out training. Like, I didn't train after Sunday. Just because I kept getting super flat. Is that something with flattening out that quickly? I feel like as a smaller person, that's not what you would expect. But is that?
I don't think you flatten out that quickly. I think you just push yourself to where you're just so flat. I mean, well, you won't know. I remember because I was driving. I think I had my daughter in the car. We were going to the Indian market to get snacks for our movie. Yeah. And
I didn't see a picture of this Indian market. I feel like I've been so much about it.
It's a shed.
Yeah, you guys are kind of in the boonies. I mean, you have a lake, you're Indian market, and you're probably 30 minutes from like a Walmart.
Yeah, it's not even an Indian market. It just so happens that someone that from India owns it, and my kids and their infinite, inability to know what's acceptable or not, decided that was what it must be if someone from India owns the place. Anyways, I was there and I remember I wanted to add food then, but that's when you were really worried about not being in shape. And so I really debated. I wanted to tell you that we were going to add fats, I think, and we did add fats, I think, later on. Yeah. But I thought, man, if I tell her to add fats right now, she's not going to like it. She's not going to think we're going to be ready. But we were still far enough out that I knew there would be time to fix that at some point. And sure enough, I think like a day or two later, you kind of made the call where you were like, Coach, I'm 125 or something like that. And so we added the fats.
I was worried I was worried I was too little.
Yeah. So that's the hardest thing with coaching is, and as a competitor, that's why I don't think you can be a coach if you've never competed, because things like that you wouldn't understand. But I've been a competitor and I know where your brain goes, where it just doesn't work. You get, because you put so much work into it.
I think it was hard too, because I really tried, and I probably put too much stock in your word. So when you tell me you're flat, you need to fill out, and then I'm like, well, we don't have enough food, and worried about being too small. Again, like I probably put too much stock in your word, and I think that probably makes it seem as though I'm second guessing you. And as a coach, it's got to be hard trying to anticipate, like, okay, this person is clearly not thinking clearly. What do they need? What are they actually going to believe? Like, what's going to put them at ease? And just trying to like manage all of those. You have the science component of here's what has to happen on a cellular level for things to be shuttled where they need to go. But then you also have the psychological component of like how the person can respond. Are you like,
yeah, well, it's not, I know you're not second guessing me, but I know that you have a concern. And so I know that if you have a concern that you are not in shape, and I tell you, even if I know you are in shape and I tell you to eat more food, that's hard in a prep, because you've put all this work in one direction, getting leaner, and you're concerned you're not lean enough yet. And then your coach says to eat more food, which in your brain is get less conditioned. So you like really know when is the right time. But like in your case, well, it's really easy, like when you work at the pro, because they know when their weight gets too low, or they know when it's gone too far in one direction.
Yeah.
And so you knew when you need.
There were a couple times I texted you. I passed out in Walmart more than once, and I was like, okay, this is a new level for me. Like I know that I probably overwork myself. But when you're passing out and strangers are like trying to just like beg you to eat a rice cake before you drive home. It's like I was so glad we pulled cardio back, because I felt like we needed to pull back. I know that I pushed myself too hard, and my concern, I think, always is that I'm going to work my ass off for however many weeks it's going to take to be ready. But especially in those last like 10 days, I know that, especially with the CNS stuff and the seizures and trying to manage all that, I know that when fatigue is what drives those things getting worse, it almost feels like it to me, if we don't pull that back, I'm not going to be able to present well. And that's hard as a competitor. You know that at a certain point, you're not going to get a lot leaner in 10 more days. Like you might get a little bit, but at that point, it's like, how can you set yourself up best for success? And I think that's where, a lot of people overthink what their coach tells them. And I probably turn too robotic. I'm like, well, Justin's isn't flat, and I feel like dog shit. So do we need to fill out more?
Yeah, for the Olympia, I'm hoping to I'd like to eat into the show starting about 2 weeks out, and so finally not have to like do all the filling out just in a couple days before the show. But we should have no problem with that, because we'll bring calories up for 2 to 4 weeks, and then it's right back to work for the Olympia. And so you'll already be lean. You should have no problem we should be in shape well early, and then be able to eat into the show. And that's really the best. And everyone's known this, everyone's talked about this for 30 years. I'm going to be ready early and eat into the show. And no, it's still, but it's hard to be ready early. It's hard to be ready on time. But if you can do it, that's always the best look.
Yeah. It was interesting getting on because we did lists for all of the prep for this whole prep. And today was my first day back to hit. And at first I was excited. I was like, oh, cool. Like, we're probably not going to go above 30 minutes. I'm not going to have, 45 minutes on the stairs and 100 degrees on our Texas garage. But then finishing hit today, I was like, oh, just kidding. That was hard.
Well, I got a question too for like people out there, is there, as far as the site for Team Troponin, for those who aren't familiar with it, is it something that you plan to either, write a little bit of a recap, or towards the Olympia to kind of add some content there that people should try to check out? And
I'm so glad you brought that up. So I have most of this last prep documented in my training log. I think I documented starting 18 weeks out from Puerto Rico, and then we extended 4 weeks from there. So I have almost that entire prep documented. For the Olympia, I'm going to be hopefully finding a videographer here locally in Texas, not only to document some of the training, what that looks like, some of the changes that Chris and I are making. He's a really cool too. But some of the changes we're going to make to my training. In addition to some of the PT work that I'm doing to correct all that like weird rib cage stuff that I was just talking about. But if there are things that people want to see covered, there are things that they have, questions about, how do you train when you're eating? My calories got really low. I think I was sub 900 on a training day for a little while during this prep. And like, that's what's needed. And people want to say that you don't have to, you shouldn't go that low. It's unhealthy. It's like, well, there's no sports levels. But that's all on the site. If there are things that people want to see, if there's things you want to learn, specifically regarding training, or, how do we use the knowledge of a doctor of physical therapy to make a stage presentation better? Let us know, because we'll document some of that. I'll be traveling a little bit these next couple of weeks. I'm hoping to be out at the shop gym in Virginia next week. I'll be out at Elite FTS with Justin in August, and potentially one other trip back home to Colorado in there as well. So
awesome. Yeah, no, definitely.
Are you at Cavs event then?
Yeah.
Oh, you are going? Okay, good.
Yeah, I fly in Friday, and then I'm supposed to fly out Monday, but honestly, I want to stay a little longer just because training out there, I think, is going to be better.
Yeah, it's a great gym.
And we don't
I fly in Sunday and fly out Sunday.
Too early.
Yeah.
I
have a wedding Saturday. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. I have a wedding Saturday. Jory's cousin's son is getting married, and they're like in Muskegon, which is like 3 hours away.
Yeah, holy cow.
And so I don't even know. I don't know. I think I might just drive to the airport and stay there and sleep there for the night, because we'll get home at 2 a.m. and I got to leave at 4 for the airport. So
okay, well, when you get in, if I can have like energy drinks or anything ready for you, again, I'm gonna.
I'll be double fisting energy drinks.
Hey, do you want some additional? I love you too.
I'll be double fisting that too.
Excellent. And my ears
I'm
really excited about all the stimulants.
My eyes will be. I can't blink.
But yeah, I'll probably be documenting like how do you prep food for contest prep when you're staying in a hotel that doesn't have a microwave, things like that. So just things that I think most normal people don't have the luxury. I think that's what's cool about what I'm doing right now. Is like I don't have the luxury of like not doing anything during the week. So I'm still traveling. I'm still working. I'm still trying to manage not only my own business that I run and I'm like underwater with, but also underwater in a good way, it's like workload. But also we're trying to grow Team Troponin. So how do you balance those things and still compete well? Because if you look at a lot of the top pros, they kind of like, they train and they play video games. They just don't do anything. So how do you as like a normal mere mortal balance, trying to meal prep while you're traveling, trying to stay on plan, trying to get your cardio in, all that. So hopefully that will be incorporated as well. I really want people to know that like whatever you want to do, the biggest limiting factor is always going to be you. It's always going to be your mindset. It's always going to be how you approach a challenge. There's nothing that you can control. Like there's really very little we have control over, except ourselves, where we choose to put our energy, and the dialogue we choose to control up here. So I'm really, really hoping to use this prep as a way to, kind of encourage people that there's so much more that you're capable of if you're willing to kind of set that vision high, and just know even if you don't hit it, there's nothing. There's no net negative that comes from learning how to balance hard work with with the rest of life, I guess.
I think if you're born with money and a wealthy family and to business owner parents, that's just, you think that's normal. Yeah. And so if you're born, in a trailer or working class parents, or you strive to be a little bit above that, But if you do succeed a little bit above that, you then strive for the next level. And so I wish for myself I could go back to my younger self, and because you want to be better than what But I think everyone, yeah. But everyone, I think, should shoot a little bit higher than that, because once you achieve that, once you are like for me, no one in my family had ever gone to college,
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a thing. But then when I went to college, it was like, well, geez, I could do grad school, But so why didn't I just think that from the start? Why do I have to wait till I achieve? Because whatever your goal is, the next level is hardly any additional work above that. So just shoot for that.
Right.
That's wild. I was thinking about it as I was getting ready to come and talk to you guys today. So I was working in a traditional PT clinic, and the only part of it that my heart was into was in seeing people start to do things they didn't think they could. Like that's my whole heartbeat in everything I do. And that's why I think prep is so cool. But I was thinking about how when I left that clinic to go independent and go cash pay, how much resistance I got from really everyone. And people that you think are going to be in your corner are usually the ones who, and they're well-intending and they're well-meaning, but they're trying to keep you small. They want you to be safe. And, you know, it's just interesting because that decision to kind of say, okay, I hear that you're concerned, but I can't live my life in fear. That decision to go and get out of the insurance-based system and work for myself and really kind of go all in on this like powerlifting PT and then go, you know, to bodybuilding, you know, everything else that we're doing, being on the Olympia stage in 14 weeks, being kind of emotional about it, being on the Olympia stage in 14 weeks is 100% because that kind of lie that I've been living to not be cared for, not have, you know, enough, I chose to just kind of say no to that and take big steps forward. And you look at all those small decisions that happen along the way. And had I stayed with what those people who were very well-meaning told me to do, I wouldn't be living this incredible dream that I get to live right now.
Yeah.
And it's, I so badly want, especially this younger generation, to have an opportunity to think that way, because so much of, you know, what we hear and all the messages that we're told, there's a lot of positive, but there's also a lot of chaos, you know, that comes like that. And there's a lot of feeling like you're not enough, or like you're never going to make it, or like this other person has something and you just can't understand why you can't get there. I so badly want to see that, you know, broken.
Yeah. And go for the gold, because what happens if you fail? You go back to the safe route anyways.
Still got
the same. Yeah, you still got that to fall on. Well, we appreciate you coming on, Dani. You definitely inspire us, and you know, I'm sure we're going to inspire a lot of people from here. So I would just again to stress, like, encourage people to, you know, check out your Instagrams. They can see it there at Dani LaMartina DPT. Did I get it right?
Doctor of Physical Therapy.
Doctor of Physical Therapy, DBT. I had to pause for a second because of the letters, but just for those listening in an audio. So check it out. And then Team Troponin, again, you know, I was a coach under Justin's tutelage for several years and listened to him on and off for 20 years and listened and trained with you and David and, you know, looked at a lot of your content, and still as being, when I go on Team Troponin and go through the content, I still learn something new every time I go on there. So I'd encourage people out there to check it out, because I know that's really a big part of your guys' passion too, is getting the education and kind of sharing the journey with people and inspiring them that way. So thanks again for hopping on, and for all the viewers out there, just remember to like, subscribe, notifications, all that fun stuff. And we are also on all audio platforms you can find podcast now, and you'll see this episode wherever you like to download things and listen in. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you guys.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you.